Truth Bombers Podcast.
Truth Bombers Podcast.
The group chat turned podcast with your hosts, Russ, Lach, and BJ.
Yo, can you hear me?
Mate, would you have to finish off taking a dump?
Not quite. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool.
Are you Russ?
Oh, that was an audio.
Save it. Save it for the recording. All right. Here we are, episode 8, and I'm going to start us off on a really positive note.
Pick up. Hello, mate. How are you?
Hey Mum, how you going?
What's happening over there?
Oh, not much. We just got off the track.
Liverpool?
Yeah. Guess what I'm doing this week? Oh, do we restart? Oh no, we can't restart. Guess what I'm doing this weekend?
Are you really?
Yeah, I am.
What, already they've decided?
Yeah, I got told this morning in the meeting.
As you heard it here on Locks, Kane Baldwin will make his debut this weekend against the Cats. We've got a lot to get through tonight, boys. We've got subs into our best 22 as we think that's going to play up against Geelong. We're going to go through Locks one more time just to confirm, just to give everyone the heads up about what we see coming down the pipeline. We've got quick draw questions with Russ. There's a new Russell segment around the grounds. We've got a lot to get through, but there's some housekeeping that we need to get through first. Russell, who once again joins us via Zoom. Do you want to let everyone know why, mate? You're the man of many segments, and now you're also the man of many hospital and doctor's visits.
May or may not have had a little bit of an incident on the weekend. It's nothing like spending 4.5 hours in emergency when everyone around you is broken limbs, multiple car accidents, and you're sitting there for 4.5 hours because you got a fish hook in your leg. Thinking, what am I doing here?
So I take the camping trip went well?
Yeah, look, it was a lot of fun. Caught a lot of fish.
Did you catch anything else?
Caught a couple of big fish, including myself. It's a little bit humbling when you're sitting there and you're trying to act tough when someone's got multiple fractures in a leg from a motorbike accident and you're complaining that you're there for a couple of hours with a fish hook in you.
The problem is, I guess, too, everyone gets triaged ahead of you. Because everything is more important than getting a fucking lure that you didn't want to lose and a snag stuck in your leg.
Yeah. It's pretty grim, actually, because, like, they've got to re-hook yourself and then, like, cut it off. It was like, yeah.
Did you keep it?
Yeah, the worst thing was a tetanus injection.
Oh.
She stings.
Yeah. Anyway,
but yeah, that's...
we miss you in the studio, but once again, we've got plenty of room here, which we'll enjoy. Shall we crack on?
We crack.
All right. Firstly, a bit more housekeeping. As the season's starting, and the season is starting on a Wednesday this week, it's finally back. We are going to move the podcast releases from Thursday to Tuesday nights, okay, or Tuesday afternoon. So we'll get our reviews in for the games nice and early. Hopefully we'll still be celebrating on most Tuesdays this week going forward. There might be some variance through the season, but to you guys who have stuck with us, you've made it through the long episode that was episode 7, which is probably still going in many realms. And we're going to, try to fix up the format a little bit, make it nice and easy. And Lockie's actually got the quarter time timer here as well. So we're going to keep segments like quick draw questions true to name as we go forward. So first thing on the agenda for tonight, before we get into previewing round 1, our thoughts are with Dean Wallace and his family. This week was rushed to hospital suffering from a heart attack. Absolute legend of a player. I do believe number 21, premiership player, 2000 season. I think he played in the 93 as well.
Yeah, I think he's
still premiership player for Bulls. So fingers crossed for a speedy recovery to Dean and best wishes to the family as well. So, and one more point, the footy tipping comp. It's getting pretty heated. There's some shit talking been going on in the group chat already. There's a couple of people, Melbourne supporters in particular, that are jumping in from the gym. And a couple of randoms, which is awesome because it means some of you guys that are actually listening and girls are getting involved, which is exactly what I see. So don't forget, I'll put a link to the description if you want to join the footy tipping comp. And if you have joined, get those tips in before tonight. I'm recording this on Tuesday, but we'll release on Wednesday. So the D's play the Dogs in what'll be just a couple of hours away by the time that this goes live. So we made it. 8 episodes deep. We're now at round 1. We've had a pretty good preseason. I feel like we've got the vocal cords pretty warmed up. We're starting to get into our stride, a little bit of flow. Here we are, boys, on the precipice.
How you feeling, Russ?
I'm excited. I didn't think it was going to come, and one day away from the season starting, I'm pumped, real pumped.
Yeah. I'm excited too. Like, footy for me is like such a big thing throughout the year. So it sort of gets to that point where it's sort of like the year's starting. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of excitement building, and then it sort of gets into Feb, and it's like, all right, it's just around the corner, and it's finally here.
Yeah, the year hasn't started until footy started. I agree with you. It's the start of the year until footy starts. You're like, all right, the year started now.
Yeah.
That's a good way to sum it up.
It's into the meat of it.
It's the only reason that I don't cry that summer's over, because at least football is starting.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it'll get us through those long, dreary nights. So,
What do you reckon about a Wednesday game? I'd be pretty salty if I had a Wednesday game, to be honest, because I was a big fan of the Thursday games for a little bit, but that's only because Bombers didn't play too many Thursday games, and it's like watching footy. But if my team was playing a Wednesday game or a Thursday game, geez, it's early in the week. If you don't get up, it ruined. Like, I don't know about you blokes, but
It's a double-edged sword.
Friday game and you lose, you're down for the whole week, the whole weekend, and watching the footy. Like, if you're losing on a Wednesday, that's a long week of footy that you need to get through on a downward spiral.
Yeah, you could look at the positive and be like, if you win, sweet, the weekend's absolutely sorted. You can watch every game with no stress. If you lose, not so much.
The flip side too, though, like having a Sunday afternoon game is you don't enjoy your weekend because you're anxious all weekend until you play anyway. So maybe
I'm
that's
an optimist. I'm like, we've already won. Going to the, it's just one bad day.
We've got quite a few Sunday games coming up.
We've always got Sunday games.
I think
I'd love to play on Sunday.
I think maybe this year more than previous years too. I'm actually excited to get back to the football as much as I'm excited for the football season starting. The only game I've been to in the last 2 years was the loss that we had to Carlton at the MCG last year. So not that I don't feel like I'm not getting my money's worth out of my membership, but it ends up being a $300 game. To go and see us lose to Carlton by 20 points is a bit of a kick in the ball. So, all right. Round 1 versus Geelong. We've been talking about this game for probably 4 weeks. It's finally here. Are we feeling any more confident than we felt last week?
I'm feeling less confident. Just a few injury concerns. I know that Kelly, Stringer, Francis are potentially ins that will play on Saturday afternoon, but I feel like, there's just a little bit, without Jones playing, without Tipper playing, just a little bit of a hole in our forward line.
I feel like there's a bit of a hole in our back line more than anything else, and I think I've been pretty vocal about that. Is I don't know how we're going to match up against the Cats' defense, and that's what really has me worried.
I'm not too concerned. I don't think our chances have gotten any better or any worse. I think, as we sort of spoke, Harry Jones, Russ called last week, didn't think he's quite ready to be kind of starting in the AFL this week anyway. You never like to see those young players. He's been dealing with some pretty perennial injuries over summer. Hope that doesn't become something chronic. But maybe that is a little bit of a reprieve and a little bit of weight off. And I thought Kane Baldwin really did show a lot last week. And we talked about some of the things that our forwards lack. Size in particular is something that Baldwin's got. And this is one of those occasions when you get a mature age draft pick in that really is like, let's see if he takes his chance with both hands. And ultimately, like, they're a complete wild card.
Yep.
He's just as likely to come in and get no touches as he could be to kick 5. And as we've seen against the Cats, if we do get up and about and we do get a little bit of a jump on him early and we get that confidence in that young group,
who knows,
right? But yeah, it's going to be interesting how we match up against their 2 monsters in the back line. We've done locks for membership or for players, and what about positions? What about matchups? Do you think Laverde is a lock to play on Cameron? Do you think Stewart is a lock to play on Hawkins?
I think that'll be the initial role. Whether that changes throughout the game, depending on how the game's actually going, I think Stewart is the best matchup versus Hawkins. He's probably the only guy that can semi-match him for size and weight. And then I think Laverde's got the fitness that he can push up the ground a little bit, whereas I'm not as confident with Stewart having the fitness to go with Cameron. Ridley will hopefully be that sort of floating, covering both those players and actually giving them a chop out. Because as we've talked about, you get those two players with one-on-ones. They're so good. They're quality footballers, and they're going to win more than they lose.
Do we think our mids can win the battle against their mids? Do we think our
Absolutely.
McGrath, Merritt, Drake is a better combination than Selwood, Dangerfield, Guthrie, Myers?
It's hard to say better. I think we've got a bigger spread, so I think that we've got a little bit more depth than they do. If we can sort of negate some of Dangerfield sort of bursting out of the centre brilliance, I think we can definitely we can get on top in the middle.
When he floats forward, who takes danger?
No one from our midfield. I think Ridley would have to sort of cover.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I reckon Kelly, if he plays, I'd still keep Reds free him up a little bit. I reckon Kelly could take him. He's sort of in between size. He can match him with the speed, outbody him.
I think he's likely to play deep forward too when he goes forward, and I don't necessarily want Ridley on that fullback back line for mine. What do you think, Heppel?
Heppel's a bit slow. Danger's just like a competitive beast. Like his power is scary when he gets going. Laverde could play that role. It depends, like who's he playing on. The only reason I think Ridley's a good matchup is because he would be the player that's maybe a bit free and he can see what's coming up in front, like what's coming up from a field.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword playing a first round against like Geelong. If we get done by 10 or 12 goals, that starts to reassess your whole season. But I think there's the opportunity for, the stage is set for guys like Devon Smith, like Dylan Shield, like these players that we've been talking about all pre-season. If they can step up and beat their man, like that tackle that Dev laid on Dangerfield, like one or two of those acts from two or three of those players, that can turn a game. And I just feel like if we stay in with a sniff late, that that youth, that exuberance, just that excitement of just getting a win on, getting the work done and getting out there, that might just be what an Archie Perkins or a Kane Baldwin or a Tex Wanganeen needs to just pull something out of their ass, kick a late goal, and like set everything alight. It is at the G as well, which you probably prefer to play Geelong at the G rather than down at GMHBA.
They got a fortress down there.
Yeah. So there's a few things. Sunny 24, again, arguably wet, messy, crappy football might have been more preferable for us if the ball's a little bit harder for Hawkins to be taken overhead and out in front. But
I don't know about that. We've never been known as a good wet weather game style either, so I'm always suspect in the rain.
I think our speed when it's a fast deck, I think suits us. I think that's probably more
absolutely.
Cool. All right. So, like we said, the outs that we're probably not going to see, Jones.
Yep.
There's a question mark with Stringer. There's a question mark with Kelly. There's a question mark on Shield.
Shield looks likely to play round one. Okay. Little question mark on Francis.
Yep.
We've talked about Tip and Woody. He's still a long way off. Hurley's obviously in the same boat. Yeah.
So we see Baldwin coming in for Jones. Who do you think comes in for Francis?
I see a little bit of a shuffle of roles if Francis doesn't play. I think instead of Langford playing on the wing, he would push as more of a half forward. And I think then you would see Nick Martin debut. So if Francis doesn't play, locks would go to Nick Martin.
You don't think they'll give Russ's mate Alec Waterman a call up to play that big body forward?
I think from pre-season, they don't have a lot of confidence in him.
Okay.
No, I agree with Locke there. I reckon Langers has to come up and play that role. Who comes in for Langers on that sort of half forward wing sort of role? That's the next question. You know, a lot of people reckon Cox is a little bit. He might not be ready for round one as well. Maybe he does rush it back in for round one when the guys didn't think he would be. But it's hard to see Waterman come in when he's not actually played any preseason games or hardly any inter-clubs.
And maybe that's the benefit of having a team that's got 19 mids, is that you can push Langers forward, and we do have that depth that we've been talking about. That it's easier to fill up a position in the midfield or on the wing rather than it is to fill that position forward. So we'll see. Stick around, have a chat, or have a follow on the old Instagram, because as soon as that 22 is announced, we'll be posting it because we'll be seeing how close we got.
Yep.
Very good. Locks. Any changes? Anyone that you'd like to revise as being previously touted as locked in, now being locked out, and vice versa?
All right. So Kane Baldwin has been announced, which is great for me.
Yeah.
All right. Putting some faith, showing some faith in my decision.
Maybe you do know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Wanganeen, I believe, will play, and he would be my pick for that Tip and Woody role. Just a small forward, potentially won't play a full game, but he can rotate off the bench, pushing obviously into that small forward role. And then Nick Martin is someone who I mentioned on the last episode. I think potentially could debut. It depends on who these last minute players are. So if Stringers are laid out or Kelly, or it completely changes it. So I'd say if Kelly's are laid out, I would see Cutler playing that role in the halfback. If Stringer doesn't play, I could definitely see like a shuffling of roles, and then Nick Martin could play. So yeah, we'll wait and see.
Who gets the sub?
For my mind, Cox would be a good role player for the sub. I think he's very versatile. I think potentially what Russ was getting at is maybe he's not quite at the fitness of some of the other players for round one. So I believe that he could actually play that role very well. And he did that late in the season last year. Yeah. So a lot of games he was that sub.
Russ?
Yeah, Cox or Guelph, I reckon, gets a sub for me. I reckon Guelph, he's probably just going to miss out. We know he's that sort of fringe player. You know, we've spoken about it many times on the pod here. So, yeah, I reckon if he's stiff and sort of missing out on that first 22, I reckon he's a good possibility for the sub.
And I had Guelph as my sub. So we've got one from Locke, one from me, and as always, Russ sits on the fence and straddles a leg in both camps.
Oh, you can't say last week that I'm throwing bombs out and going back on the next week you're saying I'm on the fence.
I like a Russ. A little bit of hedging your bets.
How are we doing for time?
10 minutes is very much up.
All right, perfect. Now,
moving on.
Big man, over to you. I'll give you the choice. Would you like to start with quick draw questions, which we'll have a timer on this week, or would you like to bring on the new segment first?
Quick draw is going to be pretty fast. It's going to be some quick answers.
All
so
right.
we're going to go with the new segment,
Okay.
Bombers Trivia.
All right.
Get to know your Bombers. So what I want you blokes to do, you're going up against each other. Feel free at home to play along. Put in the comments how you went. So your buzzers are your names. I want to hear when you know the answer, call your name out, and then you can answer the question. All right. First question.
How many questions are there?
Well, yeah, that's not one of the questions. You can't. I'm telling you the questions.
Russ is underprepared.
Russ is going to give us his answer as well after we get our answers. Yeah.
All right. Kyle Langford owns his own home. Must be nice. He has 2 housemates. Which 2 Bombers live with Kyle Langford?
Lockie. This is a stab in the dark, but I'll go with McGrath and Durham.
No. Would you like to answer, Ben?
I would have maybe gone with someone a bit younger. I haven't got any idea. Nah, pass.
All right. Snell and Harry Jones.
There you go.
Very topical. That were on the radio the last week, and also did did some media during the week about it. But anyway, obviously don't look
Russ,
at much.
this isn't another
on the
rest of your
website.
segment, is it, mate?
The Bombers currently have a few list members with moustaches. How many current listed Essendon players have moustaches?
BJ.
Not beard combos, pure moustaches.
I think 3.
Benny should say your name first before
I
you
did.
answer, but
He
I'll
did
allow it.
BJ very quietly.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike didn't pick it up. Correct.
Perfect.
1 point to you.
Oh, perfect.
3's correct?
The Langford, ZBT, and Draper.
Draper. Yeah, I didn't know ZBT.
I would have gone, yeah, definitely Draper.
Draper and Langford. Yeah. Very
Name
Carl
out-
Langford themed podcast.
Is this the Langford segment?
He's my boy. Next question. Name our mascot.
BJ. Skeeter.
Yep.
The mosquito.
Can you repeat that?
Skeeter. The mosquito.
I'll let Lockie have a chance at the full points.
I'm not sure. Russ?
Well, Skeeter is his nickname. The full mascot name is Moz Skeeter Reynolds. I'll give you half a point.
I definitely wouldn't have got that.
Who wears jersey number 49?
Ooh.
One of my favorites. It's the last number that we have, the highest number.
It would have to be...
Are we able to do some very quick research?
It'll be like a... Ben.
Yep.
Did it go to Tex?
No. But another legacy.
Ben. Tom Hurd.
Yes. The highest number we have. Ben Rudden is the coach of the Essendon Football Club.
Ben Essendon.
Hasn't always played for Essendon. Which club did he play for in
Lucky.
his... Ooh, Ben got in there.
The Crows.
Correct. Bonus point. What was his position?
Ben. Played ruck, didn't he? Or back?
Lucky. He played as a backman. Full back.
Good answer. I'll give you one point.
That was
Right.
a pity
2.5.
point.
Just get on the board.
Garnet McDonough. Sorry, Garnet McDonough. Who is he?
Ben. He's one of our VFL fringe Irish players.
No.
Oh.
Don't know, Russ.
No. Interesting little bit of trivia. Picked him up at pick number 50 in the rookie draft last year. Mature age defender from Melbourne. Had no manager. Decided to email the club for interest in him after having such a good year in the VFL playing for Tigers.
Oh, so he's a VFL fringe.
We're not picking him up. He's not. He's an AFL listed player. He
Yeah.
might play in the VFL, but currently
Is he Irish, Russ?
he's not Irish.
With a name like that.
Defender, and he actually went into the USA to go punting for a little bit and came back to Australia. All right, last question. Ben, you've already got the lock on for the win.
Locks.
When was the Essendon Football Club founded?
150 years
150
ago.
years.
What year is that, Ben?
Oh, it's like 1872, I guess, isn't it?
Correct. And you take out the first week of Essendon trivia.
SEN trivia. Did you hear that? Oh, very good, mate. You're doing such a great job. Let's keep rolling. Let's go quick draw questions. While we're in
They're pretty fast this week.
All
All right, quick draw questions. How many 50s does Dev Smith give away this week with the new crackdown on the laws of back chat to the umpires?
It better be 0. It better be 0. This needs to be a good year for Dev Smith, and that's the easiest part of your game to clean up is just keep your mouth shut.
I'm going to go with 2, Russ. and potentially they're back-to-back 50s, so a 100-metre penalty.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm pretty
I
sure he
think
did
he's gonna
that
get
once
done
last
early.
season as well.
I think he's going to get done early. He's going to get frustrated that it was nothing, and then get another one straight away, and then lock himself down for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I reckon 2 back-to-backs. That could be it. What's the final prediction for the score for Saturday?
Well, this is an interesting footy tip talking point as well. So we're going to talk with the footy tips about each of us having to give a lock, a guaranteed definite win. Now, the answer or the question that Lockie had was, are you allowed to tip against the Bombers, and will you admit it on this show when you're planning to do that? So, what's the score this week? I think the Cats beat us. I'm expecting them to beat us. I just don't want to see a blowout. So I'm thinking Geelong in the realm of 100 to 115, beat Essendon in the realm of 70 to 84. So I think the Cats by about 4 goals.
We'd go very similar, Russ. 97 to 77 in Geelong's favour.
See, I don't think they're going to get close to that 100. I reckon we can lock them down a little bit down. I reckon they might kick about 80, but I think we're about 65, 70. Lose by sort of 10 to 15. But I don't think they'll get close to 100. I reckon we can lock them down a little bit with that midfield and not hopefully let it go into their forward line too much.
Bonus point question, will we lead at any change?
Ooh.
Yes.
Quarter time?
Yeah, I'm going to go yes.
I'll go half-time.
Quarter time. Nice and early. We're going to come out strong. We're going to come out with a lot of gusto.
Youth and exuberance. That's what we've got. That's what we need to play. We need to get the kids out there and start talking shit like off TikTok that like the 32-year-old, they just don't know anything about it.
Start dancing and start doing viral dances in front of them for the bounce.
All right, you got a minute. Oh no, we've changed segments. So
We got a couple of minutes, Russ. Go for it.
First 5 games, we've talked about this a couple of times. Geelong at home-ish, Melbourne away-ish at home, Brisbane, Adelaide, Fremantle. Where do you see us after the first 5 games, win to loss?
I want to be 3-2. I think Fremantle and Adelaide we need to win. Almost calling them locks. I think the Freo game will be a good game. But I want us to beat one of Geelong, Brisbane, or Melbourne. So I want us to be 3-2 after 5.
I'll go with 2 and 3. I'm very worried about our first month without Tip and Woody playing. Harry Jones will miss the first month. We're missing Cale Hooker from last year. So there's 3 of our best 5 goal kickers from last season. I'm very worried with these top sides in the first 3 weeks. And then I think we'll come good.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, if we had full teams, I would be a bit more optimistic, thinking maybe we can get one of those, that first 3, Geelong, Melbourne, or Brisbane, who could get a win there. But that sort of fully fit team and all those niggles that we have coming into round 1 and everything, I'd be happy with just 2 and 3 after those first 5. All right, round 1. What's the biggest surprise of round 1, whether it be in the Bombers or? Just
before we move on, and I'm very mindful of the time. Who's our second group of 5 games? Like if we're 1 and 4, are we like rethinking the whole season, or are we still a chance to be 5 and 5 after 10?
So we've got Collingwood the week after, obviously Anzac Day. Then Collingwood, then Bulldogs. Great. And then Hawthorn, Sydney, and Richmond.
So we've basically played the whole top 8 by round 10.
That's a tough first 10, yeah.
Well, they did rank our draw the hardest for the upcoming season.
So if we're 3 and 7, are we still optimistic about finals?
Look, we're 1 and 6. What was it, 2 and 6?
We were 2 and 7 last year. 2 and 7,
yeah.
We made finals. I think it'll be a different season this year, and I think if we had the same sort of start, 2 and 7, we would not make finals. We would not. But I think if we can get away with a 4 and 5, that sort of scoreline, I think we'll definitely make finals from that point.
Well, I think we have to. Like, if we think we're going to do any better than last year, we need to be able to be like you've been saying all all preseason, Ben. We need to be beating some of these bigger teams. We can't be relying on just beating all these bottom end teams and going, we need a good draw to get in. We're going to have to do some upsets. We're going to have to beat maybe a Bulldogs or a Melbourne or, a Sydney at home along the way to get there.
Look, I don't know, you kind of flinched then when you said Bulldog. I honestly believe the Bulldogs don't have the moz on us that they've had for a while now. And granted, they touched us up in the elimination final, but the Pracky game, like I said, they didn't come with their VFL team to play 6 quarters and drag their stars. Like, they played a pretty decently strong team there. They were leading for a lot of that game, and we came back and won. Brisbane, playing them in Melbourne, much better than playing them in Brisbane, obviously. That for me is, of those first 3 games, I see that one as that's our biggest chance. I've been seeing a lot of Brisbane in the news lately about, I think it was Matty Richardson thinks they'll lose to Port as like his grand final prediction. I don't rate Brisbane. I honestly think we'll finish higher on the ladder than Brisbane. And I'd like to see that be a statement made in round 2.
Well, we've got the last question because I know we're under time and you stole away another question from me. That's all good though. Best on ground on Saturday. Who do you see? Who's the surprise packet
for the Bombers?
Oh, best on ground anyone. Who do you think tears it up on Saturday?
I want to say McGrath. I want to see him take his game to the next level, really find his spot, find his feet, and start to put some stamp on the fact that there will come a time when he is handed the responsibility of this football club.
I'll go with Draper. I think we've talked about this a few times, but if he can monster blokes in the ruck this season, I don't see why he can't be up near the top 3 ruckmans in the comp by the end of the season. And I love to see him just monster those Geelong mids and second-rate ruckmen that they always dish out.
I'm going to go, I hope it's Reds. I'm very nervous about a backline, like I keep saying. I really hope he just tears it up and just intercepts anything that goes into Hawkins, and he gets that frustrated face that you see when he gets upset. He just does, nothing goes right for him, and he looks like he's about to
pouts, the plastic
pouts. Yeah. I just want to see. I would love to see Reds just take out every sort of disposal out of their hands, and I reckon he's got it. The form he's got from the preseason games into club. Look, I could see him being best on ground on Saturday.
Well, I feel like Rids and Laverde and Stewart are probably all going to get ample opportunity to get a fair amount of the ball. So hopefully they all have a great game and they do shut it down and come away with the chocolates. Good job, Russ. Great questions, mate. We love when you take over the reins for the 20-minute patch. You do it so well.
Did very well. Very well tonight.
The VFLW. Girls are still undefeated. However, we are 4-0-1. The girls tied with St Kilda over the weekend. So no longer, actually I'm not so sure if Geelong won, but even with that whopping great percentage, which has taken a bit of a hit, we're still undefeated. So the wheels haven't quite come off yet, but we've gone as close as you can. But in other good news for the VFLW team, Captain Georgia Newscombe was made officially
co-captain.
Essendon AFLW first player. So congratulations to Georgia for that as well.
We need to get some of the girls on there so they can explain a little bit about the transition from the VFL to the AFLW. If we're going to go through a full draft or...
Well, there's already talk... We CrossFit, and it's hard to be in a sport where the rules change every year as they've done for the last 5 or 6 years. That's what's happening right now in the AFLW. They're just mucking around. We're not sure what they're going to do with the season. And when you're talking about players who are playing but not making a living necessarily, there's other commitments that players have in order to try to make ends meet. And so when you just decide arbitrarily to change this and change that and move this here, they need stability. I think we either need to make a call that the AFLW is either going to be a curtain raiser and it's going to be played over the cooler months of the year, or we're moving it to this sort of segmented spring into summer extended season, or we're leaving it as it is. But we need to make a call, because if that game's going to elevate, then there needs to be some security for the players that are making the game what it is, able to commit to those points in time of the year or set up schedules around it, whatever else has to happen.
Isn't that what they're doing now with having the 18 teams and moving to August for the start of this season, or the next season? It's going to be in August. Isn't that what they're trying to do, is have that long-term stability?
Well, a lot of the players that are playing in the AFLW then go to like the VFL or the lower tiers and continue to play through the winter as well. So if they start again in August, then there's no off season. And we're kind of like, the season's long enough as it is. Anyone who's played even an amateur level of football knows, but by the time the bye week comes around, you're aching for a week off. Like the game takes a toll, you know? So to do that for an extended period of 12 months, that's hard. It's hard work. And this year, I think the stat is like 18% or something increase on ACLs, because playing in the heat and playing on hard grounds, like that's huge. And it's even worse when you're talking about players who, again, have work on Monday that's not footy. You know, it's very different to a Harry Jones who does an ankle ligament and is literally taken from the ground to the MRIs and having that set by the time that dinner's on the table, and still getting that contract and staying.
That's 9 to 5 to rehab during the week.
Yeah, it's not like Harry's got to roll up to work on Monday in crutches, you know, and have to potentially take leave from another job as well, and not be covered and not be able to get paid from that. So this is all the things that happen when, you know, a sport is emerging and becoming a professional sport. And part of becoming a professional sport is having the players that partake be able to earn, you know, a livable wage and an income off that sport, you know. And I think that's fair enough. If you're asking them to display a level of determination and commitment to a contest and a ball where there's a likelihood that they're going to get hurt, there needs to be some sort of safety net that operates around that they're taken care of if that does happen. And I think that is only exponentially increased when that's over summertime and those risks increase.
Yeah. I think the game is in a teething process.
Correct.
And that's where there is a lot of, I guess, grey that we don't know exactly how it's going to look in the future. I think that's what they're working through.
Yeah.
Obviously, the AFL are trying to come up with the best way forward. I've heard a number of different theories, whether that's starting in the bye week before the finals, and that would be round 1 kickoff for the AFLW, and then they obviously continue on, potentially as like a curtain raiser for the men during our normal season. Obviously, there's a few different options there. One thing I would highlight is that I think they need to just keep trying to develop the game.
Yep.
Because the only way, I guess, they can eventually see a return on this big investment that they are doing is if the quality of the game is higher.
It's that double-edged sword, right? Because once there's more money in the game and more security, you're going to attract higher caliber athletes across to the code. But until higher caliber athletes come across to the code, you don't necessarily have the game take that kind of step up either. So, like, you're completely right. It is teething. It's growing pains. And it probably won't be something that is solved until there are 18 AFLW teams set up in a competition that mimics, you know, the clubs that they're playing for, right? In the men's side of things. So watch this space, I guess. It's a very interesting space. Like, it's not necessarily anything that we've ever really seen before. Maybe like similarly to relegation and promotion in like soccer leagues, when you go up into the bigger leagues and there's the more money and the more players and stuff like that, and then coming back down potentially. But it's super cool. I think anything that grows the sport, like we've all sort of said how much we just love the game of football, anything that grows the sport and makes it accessible to more people is going to be good for the sport in general. Guys, girls, whatever.
Absolutely.
So, lovely. Boys, we're cruising through it today. Around the grounds, any other Bomber news? I'll start with
Pretty
you,
lean
Russ.
week. I didn't have much for this week around the grounds.
I have just a couple of little things to mention, and we talked about this earlier, but AFL Live app, their writers, their journalists did a little bit of a top 8 prediction for the coming season, or they predicted where everyone would finish, a ladder prediction. Only one put us in the top 8, and we were 8th. So I think...
Who was it?
Well, I'll have to look that up. I haven't got it written down. I think this season could go one of two ways. We could be just sitting around that 8th to 12th mark where a lot of, obviously, experts see us, or we finally take that next step. We go from that fringe top 8 team to a team that looks dangerous, looks like they're going to contend in the next couple of years.
Finishing 8th and losing a final, pass or fail mark for the season?
Massive fail.
Fail?
Yeah.
Massive fail.
Massive fail.
I see that. For me, if we finish around, I think my prediction at the start when we talked about this sort of week 2, I've had us really where we were last year, that sort of 7 to 8 sort of mark. I would love to see us win that, get the Moz off us and win that first final. But I reckon pass we make finals again. I wouldn't say it's a massive fail in my mind. I think we're 2 years away from our absolute window. What?
Are you saying a lost final would be a massive fail, or are you saying a massive fail is a harsh call?
Harsh call.
Okay.
I reckon if we make finals or we lose that first game, yeah, it's tough because I want to get that Moz off. But I still think making finals is a pass.
What if we finish 5th or 6th and we lose that elimination final to
good question.
or someone that's going to go deep and it's a 1-goal game? Hard fail.
Here's the thing. We, as supporters, as backers of the Essendon Football Club, have not seen a finals win since 2004. But a lot of that time, we haven't been making finals. So it's just sort of been like, okay, we've slipped into 8th, we've lost, the next year we weren't in the top 8. I think if we make the 8 again and lose another final, it doesn't become like, oh, well, it's only like occasionally happened in the last 15 years. I think it becomes, this is the culture of the football club, that they're not quite good enough. And that's obviously a harsh statement, but
It's called how you see it.
I need us to finish 9th and we don't get put through that pain, or I need us to finish in the top 8 and win a final.
Finishing 9th for me would be worse than losing a final.
Okay, I disagree.
Because I think at 9th you have obviously no chance. Whereas even if we go in very much underdogs, there's still a chance. A good pep-up speech, a couple of videos during the week, maybe Russ some footage of baby bombers, get the boys up and about a little bit. And I'm cling on to the 2016 Dogs if whenever we finish 8th.
Yeah.
So, all right, lads.
They finished 7th, didn't they?
They finish 7th?
Yeah, they finished 7th.
All right, so it can be done from 7th, but not 8th. All right, thank you, lads, so much. Footy season is finally here. Just a reminder for you all, if you haven't joined the Footy Tip competition, please do so now. And if you have joined the Footy Tip competition, put your footy tips in. Russell, I'm looking at you.
Mine are in.
And good boy, well done.
Didn't last week.
Should we play guarantee lock? We want a guarantee lock from this game. Maybe we shouldn't play with the Essendon games because I know you wanted to opt for Geelong winning being your absolute safety.
Yeah. All right, how's this for a call? Richmond will not lose to Carlton, and it will be a decade or longer of them losing in round 1.
That's a big call. I can't even find my footy tips app. What we got? You go, Russ, while I have a quick scan.
Lock of the wall.
Jesus, what a round of football.
I said it's so tough.
There's so many shit teams.
Try picking a lock out of that.
All right, Gold Coast will beat the Eagles round 1.
In Perth.
Yep.
So there's a penalty for making this call and being wrong.
What's the penalty?
We haven't decided yet.
We're germinating. We're thinking of a penalty.
I'm still putting that in. I reckon they will win, and they won't win another game for us this season. They've beaten the Eagles the last 2 years in a row, round 1, even when the Eagles were good. And they've always started good. They're coming off some good form. I have no faith in the Eagles at the moment, so I'm tipping Suns. That's my lock. Suns to beat Eagles round 1.
We'll put it out to the gram, but we'll see what there should be some sort of penalty. Nothing obviously stupid or crazy, but something slightly embarrassing. Maybe we'll get a Russ has to buy a GWS Gold Coast jumper and wear it next week on the show if they lose. My lock's the D's. The D's will beat the Dogs. I think they did some psychological damage to them last grand final, and I can see the Dogs coming out with a lot to prove, but I think the D's are just going to be miles ahead this year. I think they will do what they did last year and drop 2 or 3 stupid games against bottom 4 sides that they shouldn't drop. But for me, they're still miles ahead.
So Ben's going with the premiership favourites and last year's premierships to win round 1. Where do you sit on the fence?
To beat the team that beat number 2, they got the hardest game of the weekend, arguably. What a game of football! Sorry, mate.
Yeah, it's a good round.
Everything is up in the air. You've got Carlton Richmond will be a cracker of a game. St Kilda Collingwood. I mean, yeah, they're playing for 15th, but you almost would say Geelong beating us is the only really
I think if you look at the betting, that is the most backed.
Brisbane Port, Hawthorn North.
The Sydney Derby.
Adelaide and Dockers in Adelaide. Oh, maybe the Dockers should get up there.
Yeah, I think probably.
Easy. All right, well, we'll come back and we'll review the footy tips next week on our first in-season podcast episode.
I can't wait.
Thank you so much for everyone who's listening, and for all of you that have listened to all 8 episodes. We appreciate it. Make sure you keep telling your friends, telling your family.
Spreading the word.
Subscribing, liking. You're doing us a big chop out, and on Instagram as well. Russell, look after yourself, mate. I'm worried that you're not actually going to ever make it back into the studio. You're 2-0 now. The last 2 weeks.
You lads are more than welcome to my studio if you like. It's a long drive out to Blackburn.
You haven't got the setup. We've got the ring light here. We've got the boys. We've got Jack Caldwell, Tom Hurd, scarf.
I'll be back next week.
Lovely. Well, don't forget, moving to Tuesday night release as well. So we will see you next Tuesday.